Lifeboat Live, we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck.
Good evening, everybody. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass, as always, is my partner, Captain Mark Wages. We are glad you are all here on the lifeboat. Welcome. The boat is getting big. My partner and I were just talking. There was a day where we could come on here and say hello to the 15 of you, or the 12 of you that just faithfully came every single night and got us through some really bad times. Now, like sometimes we see names of people, or you get emails and you go, "Did I talk to this person last week about something?" And it's all good. It's amazing. I couldn't be happier. But if I don't say, "Hey, hello" to all of you, it's because I'm afraid if I say, "Hey, hello" to 2 of you, I'm going to alienate the rest of you. So I'm not being antisocial these days. I'm actually just trying to, So if you saw tonight's the thumbnail for tonight, this is a subject that is really, I don't know, this may be the most important concept that we'll ever talk about. I mean, honestly, trying to remain sober is huge, right? It's why we're here, and to try to live our best life. But if you don't have a real handle on what matters and what doesn't, then there's really not much point, right? To any of it. It is so essential that you have perspective on this. So I'm going to use an illustration that I think kind of hammers this home. I love technology. My laptop is deciding that it doesn't want me on YouTube. Like, for whatever reason, maybe it's my face it doesn't like, but it just continually kicks me off of it. And I do like to be able to see you people in your comments occasionally. So hold 1 second and bear with me. As you know, this is my strong suit. Okay, people. So as you probably know, because I've talked about it before on the boat, I don't watch sports. I used to. In fact, I used to be really into it. It was every Sunday, and there were sports that I was almost religious about watching, one of which was football. And I kind of got to a point where I outgrew it, and I don't watch much sports these days at all. I think it's probably been about 8 years since I saw a full football game. I don't even usually catch the Super Bowl. So I wasn't watching live on Sunday night when the Bills were playing the Bengals. I would probably be willing to bet that a lot of you were watching that, right? Because a lot of the country was watching that. So this is not any experience that I caught live, but it is something that somebody pointed out, and when they did, it absolutely floored me. So, with 5 minutes and 58 seconds left in the first quarter, um, a safety by the name of Demar Hamlin, who's a really young guy. He's 24 years old. He's got one of the most beautiful smiles you've ever seen. Like, this cat just looks happy. And, just a athlete in the prime of his life, dropped dead. There's no really other way to sugarcoat it. This didn't come on from a huge hit. It was what everybody started talking about originally was, it didn't look like it was much of a shot, right? It didn't really look like this guy got hit very hard. Well, he didn't. He fell to the field and his heart stopped. This man had cardiac arrest. It had nothing to do with a football game. He hit the field after already the play was over. He stood up, and right after he stood up, it looked like somebody shot him from the stands. Right, like the lights got turned off, and that's exactly what happened. Right, his heart stopped beating, and for whatever reason, now it's crunch time, because when cardiac arrest happens, someone needs to start cardiopulmonary resuscitation fast. And if you ever ride an ambulance or you do any kind of volunteer work or things like that, they'll talk about the the time periods, how important it is to get to somebody within 10 minutes, right? They used to call that the golden 10, right? Or the platinum 10, the golden 15. Because if you don't get to those people in a quick enough period of time, you're probably not going to be able to save them. Now, most of the country and most of the world knows some level of CPR. So people can lend a hand. But that's not what happened to Demar Hamlin. Okay? When he hit the field, within seconds, 5 trainers were on the field. 4 of them were advanced EMTs. One of them was a full paramedic, right? Immediately going to this man's side instantly. And they started to go to work. And ESPN and the people broadcasting this always cut away from things like this. But apparently the world got a glimpse of a chest compression right before they shut down the feed to what was happening on the field. Americans saw a chest compression being done to a 24-year-old man. And within 2 minutes, there were what they call ancillary people, right? These people just are kept around in case something like this happens. And they, as they would say in this kind of, their patches are a little bit higher. So you had 2 ER doctors and a cardiologist who were on the field within 2 minutes of this man falling to the ground. And then 1 minute and 11 seconds later, 3 trauma nurses were also on the field with Mr. Hamlin. And then 2 minutes and 7 seconds after that, the most high-tech ambulance on the planet, right? This is an ALA. This is an advanced life-saving ambulance. That the stuff that it has inside it, this isn't your run-of-the-mill ambulance, right? Yeah, it's got an automatic external defibrillator. You know what those are? Those are the things that shock you back into rhythm, and they save a lot of lives. They're usually put on with stickers, right? You literally take the adhesive off of these things, and you put one here, and then you put the other one on the chest, and you hit a button. It talks to you, literally, right? Stand back. Will shock in 4 seconds, right? Like a voice walks you through this entire process, and the automatic external defibrillator fires. That's not what they got in this ambulance, right? They got the paddles. They got the ability to set the joules, right, which is the level of electricity that they're going to hit you with, to very specific numbers. The reason for that being, these weren't run-of-the-mill lifesavers, right? These were people who knew exactly what to do. On the 3rd shock, his heart started again. But the strange phenomenon was what happened when Mr. Hamlin hit the field, right? In a split second, the people at ESPN had absolutely no idea what to do. They didn't know what to talk about. They kept shuttling back and forth between Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, right, who were, calling the color for the game, back to the studio, and then back and forth and back and forth because they really had absolutely no idea how to handle this, right? This was a very important football game in the scheme of the season, but in 1 second, it didn't mean anything, right? Nobody cared anymore. And there was a quote from somebody from ESPN that said, this is a situation that you'd never find yourself in. But in a matter of seconds, beer sales don't matter, right? People buying souvenirs don't matter. Hot dog sales, t-shirts, right? The score of the game. You think about how much vitriol, right, fans can get towards one another, right? You've seen fans, you hear the stories about people that, they fight in parking lots and just terrible things happen because sports can really dramatically bring out wild emotion in people. Yet in a split second, nobody cared. Whether you were rooting for Cincinnati or whether you were rooting for the Buffalo Bills, you forgot all about that. In a second, it didn't matter. And one of the women that was working at ESPN said, right now, there's only one thing that matters. And there was a really long pause. She said, life. That's the only thing that matters right now. Football it's a game, right? The only thing that matters right now is the life of a 24-year-old boy, right? Young man, who's laying on the field, not breathing. Mark and I do a show every once in a while where we do a little yelling, right? And the last night I got a couple of emails. Right? A few people didn't like last night's show. The vast majority of you did. There was a minor exodus of people who walked away. The reason that we end up as passionate as we are is because, like that man lying on the field, 400 people a day are lying, taking their last breath. And there are people trying to do CPR, and there are people trying to get them Narcan. I assure you, they're not reaching them in 1 minute and 11 seconds. And they're not sending out a cardiac surgeon and 2 ER physicians, or 3 trauma nurses, or 4 EMTs and a paramedic, right? That's not happening when the addict hits the ground. And when Demar Hamlin hit the ground, the whole world, right, took notice because one guy was in danger of dying. And you know how many people said prayers for this cat? Seriously, across our country and around the world, do you know how many people talked to whatever God they believed in for this guy? But we find ourselves emotional because the people who aren't wearing jerseys and they aren't being filmed on Sunday, when they hit the ground, there's nobody there to say a prayer, and there's nobody there to call in the the best of the best to try to bring those people back to life. In fact, a lot of times it seems like outside the family of these people that nobody seems to take notice. And that's a difficult thing because when you start to break this down, what really matters, right? Life matters. Like it's the number one concern for most people on this planet, and it should be, right? I mean, there's nothing more reprehensible than someone who takes someone else's life. It is what we deem like the harshest punishments are doled out, including the death sentence, right? That will be doled out for taking the life of somebody. So these lives matter to us in a really big way, and we feel like they deserve to be given a voice. So if from time to time, we yell, I want you to think of Demar Hamlin, right? Or I want you to think about the Las Vegas shooting. Remember that? There was a concert going on. It was a country and western concert, and a guy from the Bellagio blew out a window and with as close to an automatic weapon as you could get. Right, he had an altered rifle. Anyway, killed a lot of people, just shot into the middle of the concert. The next day, if you drove down the Vegas Strip, and if you've ever been to Las Vegas, you know what I'm talking about. They have these huge jumbotrons in front of every single hotel in the city. They're massive, right? And it'll say, you know, Britney Spears tonight, 7 o'clock, right? They usually will tell you what's going on, or it'll have a special on, you know, lobster dinners for $2 with a gambling, whatever. Well, the day after that, every single one of those signs said prayers for those who have fallen, and, you know, respect for the first responders who ran in while the guns were still going on. Every single one of those things said that. You know why? Because the 50 some odd people who dropped, their lives mattered. In fact, you know what they did? They put their pictures up on ESPN with their names below them. Right, within a day, we knew the names of every one of those people. We knew where they went to school. We knew if they were married. You know, we knew one was a hairdresser. Right, everything there was to know. Right, the country was ready. There are going to be between 300 to 400 anonymous people that die without anybody taking notice. So from time to time, we're going to yell about it, and that's not what tonight's show is about. I promise you, it is. Tonight's show is about what matters. The beautiful thing about finding out what really matters is in a split second, you're going to realize what doesn't matter, right? Like the fact that the guy across from you is rooting for the other team. It doesn't matter because there's a guy laying on the ground that, right? Life matters. That's the only thing. Last night we did the video, and I might have gone a wee bit off sides, right? It was one of those nights I got on a bit of a tear. And when the shows are over, I like to go back and read the comments, right? It's important, I think, to get a handle on some of the things that people ask, especially if by some chance I missed it, you know. And there was a question put there by Madness. Can't remember. It's something Madness. I'm sorry. There you go. Grand Madness. Thank you. Grand Madness asked a question that I didn't answer. And you know what? The question mattered. The question was, he said, my son is talking about trying drugs. What do I tell him? Right? Do I advise him to be really careful? Or do I tell him not to do it? Right? Now, the fact that you're here probably means that you have a substance abuse problem, right? At one time in your life, you abused drugs, or you wouldn't probably be on this channel. For the most part, there are supporters. But so this is a tough question because your kids, you know, you kind of feel like a hypocrite, don't you? Like if you smoked more pot than Cheech and Chong, telling your kids that smoking pot is a terrible thing to do feels somewhat hypocritical. So that question matters, and it's really important. If you asked me this question 4 years ago, what I would have said was, just like pregnancy, right? If it's my child, I'm going to talk about abstinence. I'm going to suggest that they do not do it until they're of age and married. However, I'm going to talk about practicing safe sex in case they make a decision that isn't abstinence, right? You want abstinence, but you make sure you talk about protection, and you make sure you talk about things that are important because it is a contingent. I would tell any child today the truth. I would say the drugs in the country right now are not like the drugs that were in the country 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And I would show them some statistics. I would say the number of people being killed by drugs in this country outnumber every other kind of death, right? That's a big deal. So do I think that it's realistic that someone probably is gonna abstain? I'd like to believe that, my kids would do that. Realistically, like I've shared on here before, but my kids experimented. But I promise you this, they're not going to take a pill that says M30 on it, right? There ain't no chance in hell that if somebody pulls out a pill, either of my kids are going to go, oh yeah, I'll give that a try. Because as much as I say, you really shouldn't do this stuff. But if you do, right, here are some things you really need to know. The whole just say no concept, spell no with a K, right? Take an active role in talking to your kid about exactly what's going on, because that question really is heavy duty, right? That is a heavy question. And the life of the child matters more than anything. And these days, it's just not about getting high. If it was, if it was the drug culture of 25 years ago, you might say, it's very likely that you're going to experiment. There are some drugs out there that are more dangerous than others. I don't suggest that you mix certain drugs, right? Like tranquilizers, benzodiazepines, you mix those with other respiratory depressants like alcohol or opiates, and your chance of passing away is pretty severe. That kind of education is really different today. And I'll tell you something, the hardest part is, when has a parent not said to their kid, whatever you do, don't do drugs, right? Only now it's really, really important. And I promise you people that you cannot talk to your kid enough about this subject. You can't. They need to know that if it doesn't come out of a pill bottle that has their name on it, and it came from a pharmacy that you drove them to, right? That they don't take that. That they're rolling the dice. And for the love of God, it doesn't matter if it's a Perk 30 or a Xanny bar or anything else. You also need to tell them that any substance that comes in powder these days, right? There isn't one that they have not found to be laced with fent. Name it. If it comes in a powder, they're putting fent in it. Even if it seems counterintuitive, right? Like putting a downer on top of an upper, but it's exactly what's happening. So, I believe wholeheartedly that if you give kids really, really in-depth information, that if they screw up, they're going to hear your voice while they're doing it. And, if they make a bad decision, and the only bad decision that they make is that they smoke a little weed, I think you can pretty much, pump your fist in the air and feel like you won the lottery, right? The number of people on this planet today who would sell their soul to have the opportunity to talk to their kids about drugs, but it's too late. The number of those people are frightening, right? So Grand Madness is honestly one of the most important questions that's ever been asked on this channel. There are some videos that we did that we called like an ounce of prevention series, where we talk about how to talk to your kids about drugs, and we talk about how to try to raise a drug-free kid. But just in the last year, I mean, the complexion of this subculture is changing so fast. And we, again, that's not really what I want this subject to be about, but most kids these days order their drugs online. And I mean, even if it's local, like you can go right now and find Instagram accounts, right, where every post is a picture of a drug. Yeah, that's the world we live in these days. So it's not like, you think to yourself, well, we live in, such and such. Yeah, mom, someone's going to stop by and drop off some whatever. Friend from school is coming by to drop off some books that I left. Okay, because the delivery guy's going to come to the house and he's going to deliver that crap. These are conversations that you absolutely have to have with your kids. And as we said last night, I don't think you can advise a parent enough about this or about TikTok or any of this stuff. People, we can't change the world, right? We're not going to win the war on drugs. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. But I think we should try to win as many battles as we can, right? And if the battle is your kid, and you win, the war on drugs is not going to sting quite as bad, right? I promise you. The war on drugs becomes very personal when it's your child.
Yep. Just like I guarantee you, that's exactly how his mom felt when he saw her son hit the ground like that.
You know what? I believe it or not, I thought about that. I really did. I
Yeah.
thought about girlfriend, right? All of those,
Kids.
the people, because this is an emotional thing. There were people all over the country that were tearing up by this, that don't have any idea who this guy is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, may not even know him as a player, right? May not have any idea, but instantly, it becomes a very personal thing when you can watch it happening. That's terrifying, and yeah, I can't imagine what it must have been like for his family. I cannot imagine. The only part that I think would be even remotely like give you any kind of relief would be the fact that he was being treated better than anybody on the planet.
Yeah.
I mean, the National Football League has got a budget, and the one thing that they do really well is they've got people on standby for the chance of anything happening like just happened.
When they
call in, my friend.
Yeah, I'll post a link here in just a second.
Okay.
Yeah, and when you see like NFL execs tear up on TV, when you see those kinds of things, you have to understand how impactful that is. That's, these people are bred to be the hardcore of the hardcore. So when they're out there and they're out there crying over somebody, that it's very emotional for them, because they know that they're feeling what's going on. And, for the NFL to take that game and not enough people's talking about this either. The way that they're handling this, if people don't understand NFL, the playoff situation was being determined by this game.
Right.
And they basically scrubbed it.
Instantly, it didn't matter.
It didn't matter because this man on the field had, he passed away, twice, Tommy?
Yeah. The second time, they had to use electricity again and shock his heart, but that was actually on the table when they brought him to the trauma center. He died again on the table. He seems currently to be very stable. He's posting on social media, and he seems to be on the mend. I would say that there's an excellent chance he's never going to put on a football helmet again.
Right.
You know why? Because it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Right? That I promise you that he has a real handle right now on what matters. It's a game he loves, probably more than anything.
Right.
But not more than life. Right?
Yeah.
Not more than life.
And I'm going to say this too, and I don't think I told you this yet, Tommy, but my son, he played high school football. He's a big kid. And the last game of the year, his senior year, about 5 minutes left in the game, he was going in for a hit, and he didn't get up. He hits the ground and he didn't move. And I'm in the stands. Me and my wife were like, okay, get up, man, get up, that kind of a thing. And the next thing everybody's surrounding him and he ain't moving. And
wow.
They ended up stopping that game, and it's kind of the same thing. That was the end of the senior football forever for those kids. Wow. They stopped the game and ended it. And of course, what ended up happening, just so everybody understands, he ended up getting what we call a stinger, and in the neck, and it just it
shuts off. It shuts off everything, basically going to the central nervous system briefly, and they so it'll mimic paralysis. It's actually paralysis for a brief period of time, and they don't allow you to have stingers and continue to play anymore.
Right.
It
was scary, man. They cut his jersey off and everything. He was more worried about that than anything, because that was he was going to be able to take that jersey home and keep it, you know, and
Right.
and just on an upbeat note for Daryl here, he the first question, you know what he asked? Who won the game? That's the first thing he said. Who won the game?
Wow.
Tells you what was, you know, he had no reason to hit the ground like that, and that was that phenomenon that was going around here in my area with Little League baseball kids. There was 2 kids in my area that got hit with the baseball right in the chest at the exact right moment, and it stopped their heart. And this guy, you know, he got lucky, you know, and God was with him or whatever you want to believe there. But
Sure.
these kids, they died because there was none of that immediate help on the field. You know, of course there were parents and all CPR and all that stuff was probably being done, but they didn't have all this equipment and all the knowledge that these guys did to help this guy. And
Right.
we're talking like 8 or 9-year-old kids, 2 of them in like a year.
There has been an absolute epidemic of people who are basically dropping dead from heart stopping at really young ages that don't seem to make sense. And I'm not putting on any tinfoil and talking about it because there are a lot of theories out there concerning the cause behind these things. All I know is this: when it happens, you instantly know what's important in life, and there is a clarity to sobriety that is beautiful. There really is. Like I remember spending money after getting sober, and you know, you send money to one of your kids, right? Or you do, you know, a dad thing, and you know, you come up with they call and say, you know, any chance you can, you know, lend me $200 until payday, right? This is, if you're a parent, you've probably experienced this, but perspective, right? My perspective in life completely changed. You know, $200, my kid, right? I used to spend $700 a day on heroin, right? I'd be pretty jacked up if I felt any attachment to money, right? For any other reason. It really, you know, it changes you. There was a period of time in my life where, you know, the kind of things that mattered to me have changed dramatically. And I think some of that happens with age, but I think some of it is really the clarity that you get with sobriety. Keep in mind, people, that, you know, drug addiction, getting high and doing it daily, shuts down a whole lot of your life. I mean, stasis, right? You stop exactly where you are. So once all of that gets pulled away, it's almost like you've been looking at life through gauze, right, for the last, depending on how long you've been doing it, right? And all of a sudden, that gauze is pulled away, and you start seeing things really clearly, and you start seeing things like when I say that I'm really struggling with the temper and the anger. It's, again, it's not that I'm going to kill anybody. It's not that I'm going to punch anybody, but I do know what matters. And I realize that what I'm yelling about doesn't matter a lick. That's what's bumming me out. Honestly, I have a pretty decent idea of what, you know, the perspective is. I really seem to have a handle on that. And it probably has a lot to do with the fact that I talk to a lot of you people all of the time. I mean, if you really want a dose of what is important and a perspective on what isn't, the crew at a lifeboat will do that for you faster than anything. I promise you. It really, you know, Mark and I were talking before the show started tonight. As this gets bigger, right, and we interact with more people, it's nothing changes. It just gets a lot bigger, and the you know, you'd hear 3 or 4 horror stories in the first year, right, and now we hear 3 or 4 a month. And every one of them brings things into perspective. And
We do got Niall here if you want to go there now, or you want to.
Sure.
Hey Niall, what's up, bud?
Hey guys,
Hey.
great to see you both.
You too,
How
bud.
are you? How are you? Listening with great interest. You know, First of all, before I get to the crux of what I want to say tonight, is that we had a very similar situation happen with that. You were talking about the American football player, uh, one of the top strikers in Europe, Christian Eriksen from Denmark, 2 years ago during the European Championships, live on TV, just fell down on the football pitch. You know, a young guy, I think he was 32, and it was just like you were saying, Tommy. He just got like he got shot in the head. He just
Yeah.
dropped. Yeah, and all of a sudden, you know, there was some confusion with the people who were on the TV, and they were like, because it happened so suddenly, and he was just like a dead body on the pitch, you know. So all of a sudden they got it together, and then all the team gathered around him very, very quickly, like in a circle. So you couldn't really see what was going on, and then the medics came in, and but you could see some guy's head coming up and down, like they were doing CPR, and you know, and it took about 15 minutes uh, with this, and they were playing Finland, Denmark against Finland, and the Finnish team were like devastated because you're very close. They all know each other, all teammates, and everyone was crying. And Christian Eriksen he's a striker, like a world famous striker for the Danish team. Everyone thought he was dead on the pitch, and the people who were you know, the correspondents were like speechless. They didn't know what to say. They were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe. Well, what's happening here? We don't know." But the medics came in and they did their job. They had to bring in all, you could see the defibrillators coming in. You could see the shot. And next thing, the next thing, the trolley came in and he was lifted up, and there was this fantastic shot. It was you guys wouldn't have been, except if you were a soccer follower.
Right.
There was this fantastic shot where he was covered in sheets and blankets, and nobody could see anything. And then the players walked away, and all of a sudden you could just see his hand come up. He was on the trolley as they were bringing him off the field. He played in the World Cup this year, 2 years later. I still don't know if that was the best advice for him to do that. But he played in the World Cup for Denmark this year. So, yeah, what a beautiful story. And as you say, it kind of it brings it into sharp focus what is important and what isn't. Something like that, like shut down uh, everything for us at that time. It was like, oh my God, football. What's football? It's just a game.
Right.
Some guy's just going to drop dead on the pitch, and everyone was crying. His teammates were crying. I understand what you guys were going through in that experience. Um, in my own experience, I want to talk just a little bit about uh, the positivity of being sober, uh, and the feelings that you get when you're sober for a while. They can be overwhelming emotionally, and it really reminds you of what matters and what doesn't. I want to talk about my parents for a couple of minutes, right? My parents are both in their 80s. They're both still alive. They're separated now. They've been separated for 10 years. Um, they're both 83 years of age. I worry about them. They're healthy. There's nothing wrong with them physically. They're frail. Uh, my father especially is frail. His partner is doing her best to cope with him. I spoke with him tonight, and I spoke with my mother tonight. And one thing I notice in the last couple of years is that their minds are starting to drift. Their minds
Right.
are starting to disintegrate in a way that I wouldn't have noticed if I was still drunk. I wouldn't have noticed in a million years. Because I speak to my mother all the time, and I speak to my father when I can.
Right.
When he answers the phone. Sometimes he can't answer the phone because he gets confused. But I spoke to him earlier on tonight, and he was like, "Niall, oh, God, so nice of you to call." I said, "It's okay, Dad. I was just thinking. I was thinking of coming up to see you, um, maybe next week." Yeah, yeah, but we were thinking of coming down to see you. how was your Christmas now? And he kind of switches subjects, you know. And I was like, no, it was great, Dad. I told you about that. I sent you a text. Oh yeah, yeah, this phone, you know. I'll tell you what, let me pass you over to his partner, you know, and his partner is still very sharp. And she was like, oh yeah, the weather was bad now. We're gonna come down and see you soon. I says, that's grand. And then I hung up from my father and I realized that's okay. I spoke to my father, and I realized that my father was kind of wandering in his thought patterns. And then I called my mother, and she is in a very kind of negative headspace, and that she's very paranoid about the latest wave of COVID sweeping over the country and
Right.
the news, and she's very negative in her thought patterns. And I'm like, and I talked to her about that, and I try and I try to and just be there for them. But I notice very acutely that they're getting old. You know that they're physically they're still functional, but their thought, their way of thinking, and everything is kind of getting a bit disintegrated, which is natural old age. And I'm terrified that I will get a phone call one day, maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after, saying one of my parents has died. I mean, I'm so acutely aware of my parents' mortality that I make this effort, which I never would have made if I was still drinking, to stay in constant contact with them, to tell them that I love them. I mean, we've gone through hell as a family, you know, me causing a lot of it. I won't say most of it. I was about to say most of it, but a lot of it. My father causing a lot of it. It doesn't matter anymore. None of that matters. What matters is that I tell them that I love them, and I tell them that I'm here. And when I can go and see them, I'll go and see them. And and that relationship, that's one of the most beautiful things of sobriety. Anybody who is on the boat and is listening to this conversation, if you're drinking at the moment, and if you have a little bit of clarity of mind, or if you're using, what will what will envelop you is you will have an instinctive empathy eventually and compassion. And it's instinctive. You will realize when your family needs you to be there for them. And that doesn't mean that you have to be living in their house, or you just have to be available. You just have to kind of be there for them. And I have the same relationship with my sister. So I wanted to jump in there because I was I didn't talk to my sister for 10 years because of my drinking. I told her to get lost, you know, and it took years. And now we're the best of friends because I listened to her, you know,
Right.
and I'm there for her. And
But you realize what's important.
yeah. So this is. I know I have a tendency to kind of make a short story extremely long, but I think what I'm trying to say is that sobriety introduces an automatic way that you can be uh, very attentive to your loved ones in a way that you hadn't been before, and it's an instinct, you know. So
Instantly.
yeah. So I just wanted your thoughts on all this.
No, I've not seen anybody get sober that didn't go through exactly what you're talking about. There is an almost instantaneous, like I was saying earlier. We spend all of this time in stasis, and once the clarity of sobriety hits, you start to realize the things that are important, and spending as much time with family. There's somebody that a very close friend of mine is just flown out to be with their family, and this person's in recovery and said, I just can't tell you how much it means to go spend time with them. And they're not night clubbing. These are people that are they're getting on in age, but
That was funny.
you realize what's important, right? Just spending time with the people that you love. It really starts to get clear, and it happens fast. It really does. I agree with you.
And there is a slight fear also there that becomes apparent, you're kind of fearful that something might happen, and it's because a lot of emotions kind of come up in you when you're sober for a while. You become fearful for your loved ones. You want to make sure that nothing ever happens. I think it's because that we spent years kind of dulling our emotions and dulling our feelings with drugs or alcohol, that when our feelings uh, come back, they tend to be pretty. Alcoholics, addicts. We've often, in fact, when we spoke live, we talked about this. Addicts are the most intensely aware of anybody. No normal will ever be able to understand how intensely aware we are of human emotion.
Yeah.
And
And we're likely to cry at a good Hallmark commercial.
Oh yeah, or a cartoon.
When you first get sober, you'll see a commercial that that they run. It doesn't even have to be a holiday one, and instantly, all of a sudden, because it's like Niall just said, these are emotions that have been lying dormant for so long. When they come back, they don't just come back, right? They want you to know they're there, right? It's like, I'm back, and I'm gonna take over quite often. But I think it's a benefit. I mean, obviously, I break down too often on this show, but it's absolutely part of that clarity. And I don't think there's any other way to put it. Really, instantly knowing what's important, and it's just as a big a deal that once you realize what's important, what isn't becomes really clear really quickly, like your sister, right? Yeah. Like arguments with family members over the stupidest stuff. You just start going, good Lord, right? This is family. What are we arguing about again? 10 years later, right?
That's a great call, Niall. Thank you for calling in, man. We got Christopher right behind you that wants to come in and talk too.
No problem.
But that was
definitely
really good, man. That was a good insight. For real.
No problem.
And how long before somebody puts a comment up about his accent? I'm giving it 20 seconds. Guaranteed. All right, thank you now.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye now.
You, my friend.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Chris to well, he's already unmuted. You're already unmuted, aren't you, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay, I got you, bud.
I was keeping quiet.
Yeah, that's good. How you doing, bud?
Good. I just wanted to call in and tell everybody that I'm doing well. It's like the first time in a long, long time that I've been sober, and like the world's starting to clear up for me. And it's amazing on how fast the human body can recover.
And you were getting sort of into the danger zone on the human body, were you not?
Oh, I was. If I continued to drink the way I was drinking, it was a day by day whether I'd be here or not.
Truly.
Yeah.
True. And I'm not trying to put, you on blast, but, you and I have spent time talking on the phone, and I love the fact that you're into the clarity, part of this sobriety. And if you ever, start feeling like you're going to slip or whatever, I got an audio recording I want to play for you.
Yeah. I'm supposed to.
My gift.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, can you hear me? There we go. I'm supposed to call you before I get drunk.
Yes, that's usually the way it works better. Trust and believe, you're not the first person that has made that faux pas of actually making the call after. That you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Reach out before, and it's like we talk all about this all the time, right? When you get that feeling, when you know that you're heading in the wrong direction, right? At the first thought, you pick up the phone and you go. It's instantaneous. Stephanie Munoz, 1 week.
Congratulations.
Absolutely awesome. That really is absolutely awesome. And Chris, congratulations. for real. And you know what? The Chris has done a lot of things recently that I just think are heroic. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make anybody uncomfortable or anything else, but you're a good dude. You really are. And I think we're blessed that you're here, Ben. And I could not be any happier that you're sober. I really couldn't. I think that's absolutely awesome, man. Absolutely awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I've been here in Pueblo, and I've been visiting Leisure a few times. I just my cousin gave him a tablet. Is a really
Very
nice,
cool.
and so he set it up. He said he can see your 3 nose hairs now.
Oh no. Oh no.
It's
There's
pretty
at
big.
least 3. Do this one for the rest of
It's a
the
pretty good sized tablet. It's like a little 10-inch screen. So hopefully it has a little detachable keyboard. So he seemed to like
awesome.
it a lot.
No,
So
that's so cool, and I love the fact that you guys linked up. It's great that the boat it's bringing people together, and people talk about social media and they talk about you meet people when they actually start coming together, and we've seen some love, and some other things like there's the boat has really been nothing short of amazing as far as that goes, and yeah, really good time. I got a comment real quickly. I may have missed it. Let me get if I can find it. Is it Barabbas?
I think so.
All right, where is he at? Okay, he said, and I'm paraphrasing. Here we go. I'm the one who is drunk, and yet I am the one who is called on to pull everything together. I love, but I am drained. It's hard to be the mainstay when you know you are a mess. You know something, brother? Absolutely. The toughest responsibility in the world. I've told this story on the lifeboat before. I was married to a person for 7 years, and I had to pick this person up and carry them to bed for 7 years because they would pass out unconscious, right? Most of the time going to the bathroom. But this was something, and I was a mess. I was a hot mess, and I was doing everything I could to try to keep a family together and try to keep the ship upright, so to speak. It is the most difficult thing in the world. But the fact that you're a mess, right? I'm not kidding you. That's about 80% of the whole shooting match is realizing you're a mess, right? Once that realization sinks in, brother, healing can begin to happen. And if it's drink, technology is really in your favor, right? If anyone listening to me, if your substance of choice is alcohol, there are some things they're doing to treat people with alcohol use disorder that is nothing shy of amazing. You can reach me at sober@myyahoo.com. That's not Yahoo. That's myyahoo.com. Sober@myyahoo.com. And I would love to talk to you about it, tell you some of the things that are going in your favor. And, if I find out what part of the country you're in, we might even be able to figure out exactly who's doing that kind of stuff. But I'm telling you, you did the hard part. For real. I'm not saying that getting sober is easy, because it's not. But realizing that you're a mess and that you can't hold it together. If you knew the number of people that we talk to on a daily basis who really don't have a clue, right? They think that, I do this a little too much, and and you're looking at them going, good Lord, like the stories you're telling me, you're a hot mess. And it took me decades to truthfully get a handle on just what a mess I was. And that's the beginning of all great things, Barabbas. I'm telling you, man. I am telling you. So please reach out to me, my friend. Please reach out to me. And I love that you're here. I really do.
We appreciate
Sober,
you.
drunk, either way. Yep, we want you here.
Yep.
So that's good stuff. It really is. And I am so happy. The caption helped me out about a year ago. It wasn't easy, but I'm almost a year and a half clean, thanks to just his small amount of support. Sling Blade,
The Sling Blade?
Yeah, that's cool, man. I could not be happier to hear that almost a year and a half clean. How good is that, right? That's it. Now you're getting into the time where clarity is almost over the top, right? You hit a type of clarity at that when you start getting to the year marks that now you sort of can start to focus on some of the things that seemed almost out of reach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Spirituality, any of the things that aren't tangible, right, become really important. The longer you're sober, the more you start to ask yourself questions that most people, air quotes, normies, they ask themselves these questions throughout life, right? Who am I? What am I doing here? Where do I go? Right? All of those things. But yeah, I could not be any happier to hear that you're a year and a half, my friends. And
Yeah, when you
did
start
that.
putting those notches on your belt in a year time frame,
Yeah.
that's when you are starting to replace those bad memories with good ones. And that Band-Aid you ripped off, showing all your nerves, making you so emotional all the time, that Band-Aid is gone, but now you don't have to have it because your skin's starting to, peel back up straight. And it's a good place to be.
It is a great place to be.
It doesn't mean that you can't go back the other way. We always have to keep that in our mind, but
Absolutely.
we want to acknowledge when we're going that direction also. So
Good stuff. Really, really good stuff. Stephanie said, I want to be healthy for my family and for me. So many in my family have died from the effects of alcohol, and it's not going to happen to you. Right? That's a beautiful thing. And I'll tell you something, people. Finding out what really matters, right, is it's a really important subject matter for the book. It really is. Because when you get a handle on what is really important, then your best days are in front of you. Make no mistake, right? Your best days are in front of you because you will focus on the things that matter, and you won't waste time on things that don't. You won't have arguments with people that you love that are pointless, that there's no reason to have. All of that kind of perspective is huge. And yeah, you know what? Let's remember that life is precious, whether it's somebody on the field that falls or whether it's you. And whether or not it's cardiac arrest or whether you're killing yourself slowly with drugs or alcohol or a combination of both. Honestly, it's sadder to watch that. As horrible as it is to see somebody drop, instantaneously, healthy 1 second and gone the other, there's nothing as depressing as watching somebody just disassemble themselves over the course of years. And the good news, you heard it today, right? Chris said it's amazing how fast the human body can start to bounce back. This was a guy that was, right, there was blood. He was literally drinking himself to where it was getting very, very scary. God bless you, Chris. I could not be more proud of you. That is one of the coolest things. And Stephanie, great job. I love hearing that people are sober. I really do. All right, Cemetery, you're not going to see us next year. I better see you tomorrow. All right, we're live tomorrow. So, believe it or not, the cat is on strike. Very, very angry. It has something to do with the fact that I refused to let her in the garage to hunt mice today.
Oh, man,
But
no, the basket.
I will be back. No, here, look at this. Can you believe that? But we will be back. We will be back tomorrow night.
Right.
Same squirrel time, same squirrel channel. And if the cat's not in the basket, I really will be blown away. She doesn't miss 2 shows in a row very often. But that's not the cat in the basket.
Molly.
all right, thanks, Chris, for calling in, bud. We'll see
Chris,
you.
thank you for calling in. And God bless all of you. We will see you tomorrow night. Joanna W. says no join button. It is going to be in the Dropbox starting tomorrow if you are on Apple, right? I have Lady Crispin is figuring this out. It is a iPad and an iPhone issue. If there's any other way to access the channel, there is a join button. If, however, you cannot, then it's going to be put in the Dropbox. Hello, Ilea. The Dropbox will come down. There will be a join button. You will hit. It'll take you to all that. And that's what I'm told. I'm not very bright. But that's what she said is going to happen. So she says that she thinks she's got that under control. So I promise you, we're working on that. Why Apple is a problem? You know, there's a decent number of people that just use Apple, but unfortunately, that is one of the things that, you know, one of the drawbacks. And this week coming up, there is going to be some members only video. You know, I haven't edited anything in a really long time, but I was shooting some video for today. So it is coming this week. And forcing Captain Mark, he's going to be there too. All righty, people. I am Captain Tommy Scoble on the other side of the glass.
Captain Mark Wages.
All right. Good night, Pete.